but I've got a new What's for Dinner video to share with you. This one goes all the way back to Christmas. I don't know why I can't speak at the moment, but it goes all the way back to Christmas because it's been that long. And then it goes through to about when my mother got here, which was just under 3 weeks ago. My mother is spending 2.5 months staying with me at my house. So I've been doing more cooking. There's that. But yeah, let's get into this What's for Dinner video. First up, Christmas dinner. In my family, we always do Italian food for Christmas dinner. I can think of very few occasions where we did something other than chicken parm or lasagna. Most years it was lasagna, that's my cousin's favorite, but I am a chicken parm fan, so most of the time when it was my choice, chicken parm is what was for Christmas dinner. So that is what I did this year. It was just me by myself for Christmas, but it is fine. After working so many years of the holiday is the only day you get off, if you even get the holiday off, I'm used to not being with family on holidays. This year, I did have a few days around Christmas, but not a significant amount of time to be able to go and celebrate somewhere. So I stuck around at home and just had a nice little relaxing Christmas break. For my chicken parm, I do have an entire video about how I do this, and I will link that in the description box below. But essentially, I am starting out by breading my chicken. To do that, I am going to whisk up my eggs, and then I'm also going to add Parmesan cheese directly in with the eggs. So I have Parmesan cheese in with the eggs and Parmesan cheese in with my breadcrumbs. I use egg, Parmesan cheese, and salt in my egg mixture. And then in my breadcrumbs, it is just the Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. If you don't have those, you just have standard breadcrumbs, you can use those and add Italian seasoning to it. That would also suffice. And then I add the Parmesan cheese in there as well. And yes, I am just using the simple shaker bottle of Parmesan cheese when I make the chicken parm. You can use the fancy stuff if you want, but it's not going to taste exactly the same as the way my family makes it. Then it's time to get out some aggression and pound out those chicken breasts to be nice and flat. You can use chicken tenders, you can use chicken breasts, whatever chicken you have on hand or whatever chicken you can find on sale. For me, I believe these were actually chicken tenders that I used, but you want them to be nice and thin, and you want them to be even so that they will cook evenly. You don't want to have some that are a little on the puffier side than the others. So you just want them to be nice and consistent. I will normally use the flat side of my meat mallet to get them a nice shape, and then I will go in with the side that has all the spikes on it and just get a little bit of that surface on there that really will hold all of that egg mixture and coating really nicely. And then I've got olive oil, and I'm frying this in olive oil. That is the difference between this time that I made it and the original video. When I made my original chicken parm video last year, my chicken parm was good, but it did not taste like what I remembered, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. And then when I got home for Christmas and tried it again on Christmas Day last year, I realized it was because I had fried it in vegetable oil, and then I had that memory of, oh wait, no, we always had these big jugs of olive oil and we would fry the chicken up in the olive oil. And I did that, and then I did it again this time, and that is what gets that taste that I remember having. So I know a lot of people don't fry in olive oil. Chicken parm is pretty much the only thing I will fry in olive oil. But once that is all fried up, if you're doing this in advance, you want to make sure that your chicken is fully cooked. If you're going to put it immediately in the oven after frying, it doesn't have to be fully cooked all the way through when it goes into the oven because it will finish cooking in the oven. But you do want to make sure by the time you eat it, it is at that 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Since I was doing this all together in one go, Mine was mainly cooked, but then it just cooked through the rest of the way in the oven. I do smother mine fully on the bottom and on the top with my spaghetti sauce. I've got a video on how I make that. I've got several videos on how I make that, but I will link that in the description box below. I believe I showed it in my last What's for Dinner video because this is that batch that I would have made then. And then I am going to sprinkle the top with some parsley after I have added all of my mozzarella cheese and sauce to it. When it comes out of the oven, it's looking gorgeous and melty. I serve that up with some spaghetti on the side. Next up in this video, I've got spare ribs. This is another one that I grew up eating spare ribs a lot. Pretty much anytime they were on sale, this was one thing that all three of us in the family did enjoy. So when I saw spare ribs at a decent price a few weeks prior to this, I grabbed some, I threw them in the freezer, and kept some out to make in just such a simple way. This is even a little fancier than I would normally make it. Growing up, we did not have shallots in it, but I had a shallot on hand that I needed to use up. So I thought, you know what? That'll taste good in there. So I put those on the bottom of the pan, and then you could simply from here put barbecue sauce on these. That's all they take. I did season them with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper on both sides, and then added my barbecue sauce to this. But my memory of growing up is simply put spare ribs and barbecue sauce in the slow cooker. Oh, I added garlic powder as well. I forgot I did that part. And some onion powder. That's what happens when you film something and then don't do the voiceover for it until 2 months later. So I've got both sides of my spare ribs seasoned up. I let this go on the crock pot. It doesn't necessarily take a full 8 hours. These are very small pieces of meat in here, but I put them on low and then go to work for the day, and they are done when I get home. In my family, we always served spare ribs over egg noodles. I don't know where that combination came from, but trust me, it is delicious. So you want a little bit extra barbecue sauce in there at the end so that it's a nice thick sauce, because after this has cooked all day, it's going to be a little bit liquidy. So I did reserve some of my barbecue sauce, put it back in the fridge, and then when I got home and these had fully cooked through, while my noodles were cooking, I just added more of the barbecue sauce into the slow cooker and left the lid off so that it could just kind of thicken that sauce up a little bit. And this is so tasty. Such a simple meal. When you find this on sale, it's also a really budget-friendly meal with so few ingredients. So highly recommend. And then I've been trying to incorporate more greens into my meals, trying to have something green with pretty much every meal. So I had some roasted veggies in the freezer that I could just throw in the air fryer, and I had that on the side with this. I did not mean for this video to become meals of my childhood, but that seems to be the combination of meals I've got here in this video, because sloppy joes are another thing I grew up eating all the time. So sloppy joes, I use the seasoning packet and the tomato paste and the water method of sloppy joes, where you brown the ground beef. The only difference I made this time to how I grew up having it is that I did add a little bit of barbecue seasoning. That was the Kinder's barbecue seasoning. I just have it in a little glass container there. And I added that when I was browning up my beef. That's the only change I made to this from what it says to do on the seasoning packet. Now, if you've never had sloppy joes this way with a seasoning packet, or I guess making them from scratch, you can do that too, but the seasoning packet is so cheap and so easy. But the way I make them, I did not know until I went to college that a lot of people have canned sloppy joes, and there is nothing wrong with that if you enjoy it. But the first time I wanted sloppy joes while I was away at college, my college roommate was like, "Oh, I hate sloppy joes." And I said, "Okay, well, I'm really craving them, so I'm going to make them. You can find something else if you'd like." And when she saw me pull out the ground beef, she was like, "What are you doing there?" She had only ever had canned sloppy joes, and she had never seen them with the ground beef being browned and the seasoning packet and the tomato paste. So that is the main reason that I'm showing that in this video. is if you are not a Sloppy Joe fan, but you've only ever had the canned Sloppy Joes, everyone that I've made this for that has only ever previously had the cans and not liked them has enjoyed Sloppy Joes made this way. So if you're looking to change up your Sloppy Joes from the can, or you don't like them out of the can but think, oh, maybe I would like them if it was fresher, definitely give this a try. It's so simple, so cost effective when you can find a good price on ground beef. And this, I was able to find some ground beef on sale when I made this, and it wasn't too overly priced, which is hard to find these days. But you just get this and some hamburger buns and you're good to go. So I throw that on the hamburger bun. You can have cheese on it if you'd like, but I did not ever have cheese on these growing up. So I simply put these on a hamburger bun and call it a day. Now, the other part of this meal was I had some fresh veggies, and I wanted to share this with you because my coworkers thought this was genius. I have not been eating as many veggies, mainly because I haven't been wanting to prep them. So when I was at Costco and saw a veggie tray on sale, I grabbed it, I ate off of it for a week. I had all of my fresh veggies. I was able to cook the leftover broccoli and cauliflower that I still had, and the dressing that came with this, the little dip, was so good. So if you are struggling to eat veggies because you don't want to chop them up, find veggie trays on sale. And the last meal for this video, it's been a while since I've shared French onion soup. It's also been a while since I had made French onion soup, but this is one of my favorites. I love French onion soup. I never made it myself until about 2 years ago, I think is when I started making my own French onion soup. And when I realized how simple it is to make at home, I did start making it more often for a while. But I am starting out here by simply sauteing my onions in some butter. I am doing this in a pan that I will be able to put in the oven. You don't have to. You can transfer it to something else later if you want to, but it is easier to get that nice melty broiled cheese on top like you would get in a restaurant if you're doing this whole thing in a pan that can go in the oven. So once my onions get nice and brown, this is the only part of this that's really time consuming, is having the patience to get that nice sauteed onion. Once they start having some color on them, that's when I'm gonna go ahead and season them with some salt, pepper, and a little bit of thyme. And those are really the only seasonings that I use in this because the onions themselves create such an amazing flavor. And I also don't overdo it on the salt because I am going to be putting broth in this as well. I use beef broth. So once these are really to that color consistency that I like, I'm going to add in some garlic right there before I put the broth in so that it doesn't burn, but it does get nice and fragrant. And then I use beef broth in this. They also make sauteed onion broth now from the Better Than Bouillon, which is what I'm using, the beef base of the Better Than Bouillon. I've had the sauteed onion one as well. That would also work really well in that, but I like that beefy flavor in here. I had in this 2 onions and about 4 cups of beef broth that got added into it. And then I am going to make sure that my little Better Than Bouillon base gets all combined in there. And then I let that simmer for about 20 minutes to get those flavors really melding together with all the onion getting into that broth. And then I take my lid off. I'm going to add in my croutons. You can use whatever croutons you'd like. I use the Aldi Crostinis. I believe they're seasonal. And then you use your cheese of preference on here. If I have provolone on hand, I use provolone. If I have Swiss on hand, I use Swiss. If I have both of them, I have also used both of them in the past. I put the lid back on to let it start getting nice and melty. You can also see I only put this on half. That is because I'm only planning on eating half of this soup on this day. And doing it this way makes it so that when I go to have my leftovers the next day, there is still liquid in there and the croutons have not absorbed everything. So I do make it again kind of fresh the next day, doing the croutons and cheese on the other half. I threw those under the broiler. They could have stayed under longer to get a little bit more brown on top, but I was hungry, so it was time to eat. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any more content. It may be inconsistent, but it's coming. I swear it's coming. I have been filming, I just have not been editing what I've been filming, so hopefully I get better about that, but I appreciate you for sticking in there. Thank you.